Welcome back, everybody, to some more MLB the Show 23 franchise. Today, I will be going over 10 hitters who you should trade for in your franchise modes. Earlier today, I uploaded a similar video going over 10 pitchers who you should trade for. So if you'd like to watch that video, I will leave a card at the top right of your screen for you to go ahead and check out. Today, of course, we will be going over 10 hitters or 10 position players that you should look to trade for. And none of these guys are superstars. These are all players who are under 85 overall. They don't have A potential. They're more under the radar guys, but they produce at a very high level in MLB the Show Sim. And that is proven fact based on science. I did 2 separate 5-year simulations to back up my claims, so I have full evidence as to why you should look to trade for these players. Before we get any further, here's a word from today's video sponsor, SeatGeek. SeatGeek is a ticketing app that takes the confusion out of buying tickets. SeatGeek will number each seat on a scale of 1 to 10, with a higher number being in green, being a better deal. The best part is, if you use my code OctagonalGaming, you can get $20 off your first order. Again, that's code OctagonalGaming, spelled as it is on screen, all caps, no spaces, for $20 off of your first order. Thanks again to SeatGeek for sponsoring today's video, and let's get back to the episode. It doesn't really matter what team we get, so I'm going to randomize it, and we end up landing on the St. Louis Cardinals. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the 10 players, we're going to trade for them, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to trade for them, and then I'm going to show you guys their stats during the 2-year, 5-year sims that I did to prove that these guys are really, really good. The first player we're going to look at is catcher William Contreras of the Milwaukee Brewers. If you're looking for offense out of your catcher, William Contreras is your guy. This guy can swing the bat. He's not a great defensive catcher, but with 5 years of team control, he can absolutely hit the ball. Trading for William Contreras would not be realistic at all. The Brewers have no reason to trade for him, but we're not going over realistic trades today. We're just trying to figure out how to make your team better. If you're looking for more realistic franchise content, the Marlins franchise that I started yesterday is all based on realism. Compared to most of the other players in today's video, Contreras was a little bit more on the expensive side in terms of a trade package. I had to give up 3 solid pieces, including Brendan Donovan, but ultimately I think it's worth it for one of the best offensive catchers in baseball. During the first 5-year simulation I did, Contreras was incredible. 99 contact against lefties, 99 power against righties, and the numbers speak for themselves. He had an OPS of at least 792 in all 5 seasons and has really developed well. He wasn't as good in the second-year 5-year sim, but still very, very solid. So again, if you want offensive production out of your catcher, William Contreras is definitely going to be your guy. He might cost a little bit in a trade, but ultimately I think it's worth it. Nathaniel Lowe was in last year's version of this same video. There's a reason why he's made it back for a second straight season, and it's because he rakes. Lowe is dominant in MLB the Show Sim. He's got 4 years of team control. With him being an 85 overall, he's the highest rated player in the video, and thus he's going to be a little bit harder to get. We had to trade away a good player in Wilson Contreras, so we're splitting up the Contreras brothers along with 2 decent prospects. Lowe is a little more on the expensive side as well, but for his offensive production, it's ultimately worth it. In the first 5-year simulation I did, the numbers are all around very solid, consistently around 25 plus homers, usually hits around 300. This past season, he had an OPS above 900. In the second 5-year sim, he is starting to regress a little bit, but still, very, very solid. OPS consistently above 800 other than the final season. Luis Ariz of the Marlins is next on the list. The stats that will certainly pop out here are 99 contact against righties, 99 vision, and 99 clutch. Luis Ariz is a phenomenal contact hitter, and contact specialized players generally do well in MLB the Show simulation. Ariz won the batting title last year. He has 3 years of team control, and only being a 73 overall, he's not that hard to get. All I had to trade away is Juan Yepez, who's a fringe major leaguer, and 2 pretty bad prospects for an elite contact bat. In the first 5-year simulation I did, Look at the attributes: 98 contact against righties, 99 against lefties, consistently hitting above 300. The past 2 seasons, he hit 336 and 341. With his contact, he gets on base a lot, and he can get doubles consistently, so his OPS consistently can be in the 800s. In the second simulation I did, he was not as good. He did have a very good 2026 where he hit 353, OPS in the 900s with 22 homers. However, the following season, he was really bad with a sub 700 OPS. I think realistically, you should see him more in the middle, but leaning towards 800 plus OPS as a guy who consistently hits over 300, 15 homers a year, and a lot of doubles. He's also very versatile defensively. He can play every position in the infield, and he can also play left as well. The next player on today's list kind of breaks my rules a little bit. I know I said we were not trading for superstar level players and guys who have a potential, but I had to make an exception for the next guy here, and that's Red Sox third baseman Rafael Devers, who is criminally underrated in this game as an 84 overall. He just signed a monster 10-year, $300 million plus extension, so you're going to have to be willing to pay him the big bucks, but I really feel like he's worth it despite only being an 84 overall. He has 95 potential, and I've seen him often go above that in MLB the Show simulation. The guy can absolutely rake. Against right-handed pitching, he's honestly one of the best players in the entire game, and he is still improving against lefties as well. The big reason why that he's on the list is that he has no trade value for whatever reason. All we have to give up is 3 very mediocre prospects. None of these guys are ever going to have an impact in the major leagues, and boom, that's all you need to trade to acquire one of the best third basemen in baseball. I assume his value is that low because he's on such an expensive contract for only being an 84 overall. But he is 100% worth every penny, and you should absolutely look to trade for him if you can. In the 2 5-year simulations I did, Devers was unsurprisingly very good. In the first one, he made it all the way up to a 98 overall. His OPS was above 900 4 times, and it was above 1,000 twice. He still has 5 years left on that big contract, but he still is only getting better. In the second 5-year sim, he wasn't as good, but still very solid. He makes it up to a 94 overall. In 2025, he hit 50 dingers, and in the last 2 seasons, he's got 39 in each of them. His OPS was above 900 4 out of those 5 seasons, and again, has been worth every penny so far. The final 6 players we'll be looking at today are all in the outfield. I will note there are a lot more outfielders in this game who I thought would be good trade targets, with the first one being Steven Kwan of the Cleveland Guardians. Very similar to Luis Ariz with the Marlins, contact-based players are very good in this game, and Steven Kwan has great contact and great plate vision, so because of that, he's going to be a really good option for you at the top of the order. Adam Wainwright at 41 years old has a surprising amount of trade value, and we only had to give up him and 2 very bad prospects. In the first 5-year sim, Kwan developed very well into an 88 overall, and as you can see here, consistently hits above 300 in 4 of the 5 seasons. His OPS was above 800 all 5 times, and with 5 years of team control, you can really build around him at the top of your lineup. He was not as good in the second sim, only making it up to an 83. His OPS was always between 700 and 800 here. And I would say this is probably the floor with Steven Kwan, and it's a solid contact-hitting outfielder. The next player we're going to look at is Taylor Ward with the Los Angeles Angels. He can play both corner and field spots along with everywhere in the outfield. Good bat. Last year, if you remember, he was one of the best players in the league through the first 2 months of the year out of seemingly nowhere. And with 4 years of team control, you can really build around him. We did have to give up a little bit here. Genesis Cabrera and Michael McGreevy are both pretty solid assets, but I think it's worth it for a guy like Taylor Ward who can play 5 different positions and is a really, really good offensive player in this game. Now, with him being a little bit older, he will eventually start to regress, so I know his rating does not look that impressive, but if you look at his numbers through each season, he consistently hits, say, in the 260s. His OPS regularly is in the 800s, which I think is well worth it. In the second simulation I did, he is all the way down to a 75 overall. So again, this is more of a short-term thing, whereas with somebody like Steven Kwan, you're going to have him good for longer. But Ward consistently produced in my 5-year simulations and can be a really solid starting outfielder for you for realistically at least 3 or 4 seasons. The next guy we're going to look at is Jake McCarthy, the right fielder with the Arizona Diamondbacks. He's a jack of all trades, if you will. very good contact hitter, and the rest of his game is pretty solid. And he also has 99 speed, along with 6 years of team control. So I ended up trading Dylan Carlson for him, and you're probably thinking, why would I do that? This is a lateral move. Both players are pretty much the same age, the same rating, the same position, the same potential, and yes, that is true, but Jake McCarthy is a lot better in MLB the Show simulation than Dylan Carlson, so you're actually getting a fleece in doing that trade. In the first 5-year simulation I did, he made it to an 85 overall and was very consistent. Solid power, solid average, solid OPS, but in the second simulation, he exploded. He makes it to a 91 overall. In the last 3 seasons, he's hit at least 317. He's hit above 340 twice, with an OPS above 1,000 in all 3 seasons. I will point out he has only played between 85 and 95 games in those seasons. His durability does not appear to be a concern, so when he is on the field, he can be an MVP-level player if developed right. Anthony Santander of the Baltimore Orioles is up next. This guy hits nukes. He's got a ton of power, and he's got good enough contact to where he can be an all-around hitter. He only has 2 years of team control, so compared to some of the other players on today's list, you're going to have to pay him a little bit sooner. Let's take a look at the trade finder with him specifically. I've got to show you how broken trading is in this game. The first offer, Jack Flaherty, solid starting pitcher. The second one, Jordan Walker, elite prospect. Those 2 offers make sense. And then the last one is a whole bunch of nothing. You're telling me that Jack Flaherty, a potential ace, and Jordan Walker, a potential all-star, have the same trade value as 3 bad prospects. I would want 1 really good asset rather than 3 crappy ones, but that's just me. If you're willing to expose the game like this, then you can completely fleece teams for good players like Anthony Santander. In the first 5-year simulation I did, he makes it up to an 88 overall with very good hitting attributes across the board. He hit at least 32 homers in each of the last 3 seasons after missing most of 2024 with presumably an injury. The slash line isn't great. His OPS is usually between 700 and 900 in the ballpark, but he hits for great power, he drives in a lot of runs, and his average is quite solid. In the second 5-year simulation I did, he's an 86. He seems to start to be regressing here, which at 33 years old is pretty understandable. Although his batting average during this 5-year simulation was a little bit inconsistent, he hit at least 27 homers all 5 times and went over 36 homers twice. Seiya Suzuki of the Cubs is next on the list. He's making a lot of money for a 77 overall, so I understand why you'd be a little bit weary of trading for him, but he's another guy who's a jack of all trades. He does everything well. He can play third, he can play short, and he can play everywhere in the outfield, so I think that defensive versatility is certainly valuable. We had to give up a decent prospect in Alec Burleson along with 2 other guys, but ultimately I think it's worth it for a guy like Suzuki, even though you are taking on a pretty big contract. In the first 5-year simulation I did, he made it up to an 86 overall, and at one point he was higher, but again at 33 years old, he's starting to regress. The offensive numbers are pretty solid. 2 years with an OPS above 900, although the last 2 seasons his OPS was below 800 both times, and at that point you make it to the end of his contract, you can bring him back for cheap, or you can get a younger replacement. In the second simulation I did, he's an 85 overall. Again, starting to regress a little bit. His production offensively was better here, I think, with an OPS above 800 in each of the last 3 seasons before again becoming a free agent. The last players on the Dodgers, they have a lot of really, really good players, but Trayce Thompson is arguably the best one in MLB the Show simulation. If you think you recognize him, your eyes are not deceiving you. This is actually Klay Thompson's brother, believe it or not. For those who did not know, Klay Thompson has a brother who plays professional baseball for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Thompson absolutely rakes against right-handed pitching, and keep in mind, you're going to face off against right-handed starting pitchers 120 games a year realistically. Now, there are some concerns with him. He doesn't hit lefties very well. His plate vision is only at 22. He strikes out a lot. And he is 32 years old. He generally regresses pretty quickly, but within the first couple of years of your franchise, Trayce Thompson puts up legitimate superstar numbers offensively, which is odd for a guy who's been a journeyman throughout his entire career. With having 3 more years of team control, you can realistically keep him until his contract expires, and by then, he'll probably have regressed quite a bit. Since he's only a 79 overall and 32 years old, he's not that hard to get. 3 pretty mediocre prospects will get the job done. In the first 5-year simulation I did, Thompson actually was not all that good. And you got to keep in mind, you're not going to have a 100% success rate with your trades. Thompson has fallen all the way to a 65 overall, and his offensive numbers, albeit not bad, but they're quite mediocre. This is what you should expect with Trayce Thompson. 2023, ridiculous offensive numbers. OPS at 940, 37 homers. Solid numbers through 2026 as well before he's really not good enough to play anymore. So I think you've got 3 or 4 years of Trayce Thompson before he's bad. But those 3 or 4 years, he's going to play like an all-star for you. And I've seen him dominate in other simulations that I've done. So I think chances are Trayce Thompson's going to end up being really good within your franchise. We can make a really good lineup with the 10 guys we traded for. Obviously, the Cardinals have guys like Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado, who are probably going to be starting over these guys. But still, this lineup is honestly really good. And you've got Jake McCarthy off the bench as well. Guys like Seiya Suzuki and Taylor Ward can play a whole bunch of different positions. I don't really like having 4 lefties hitting consecutively with Kwan, Arise, Lowe, and Devers. But I couldn't really think of the better order, so I just ended up rolling with that. So that's going to wrap up today's video. Let me know what you thought of the players I showed today, and are there any other hitters in MLB the Show simulation who you often like to trade for in your franchise modes? Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Peace out.